In this video, we dive deep into the heartbreaking stories of the 35 cast members of the beloved TV show Gomer Pyle, USMC, 1964 to 1969. While the series brought laughter to millions of viewers, the lives of its stars were often marked by tragedy. From sudden accidents to long battles with illness, many of the actors met untimely ends that shocked their fans. In this tribute, we take you through the emotional journeys of these cast members, revealing the dark side of Hollywood fame and the personal struggles they faced after the show ended. Whether it was a car crash, a battle with cancer, or an unexpected tragedy, we remember these actors for their contributions to the series that became a classic. Join us in honoring their memory and learning about the real stories behind their tragic departures. Don't miss this touching exploration into the lives of the stars who made Gomer Pyle unforgettable. Elizabeth McCrae, born on February 22, 1936, stepped into the role of Lou Ann Povey in Gomer Pyle, USMC in 1966, at the age of 30. Lou Ann, with her gentle charm and warmth, brought a sense of sweetness to the show, capturing the hearts of viewers as the love interest of Gomer Pyle. Yet, behind the scenes, Elizabeth's life was marked by quiet struggles. She had married young, but her first marriage fell apart in the late 1960s after a series of disappointments in her acting career. Though her early years on the show were filled with promise, her subsequent roles failed to gain significant recognition, leading her to feel as if she had been typecast. She found herself lost in a whirlwind of broken dreams. Her second marriage, a brief affair, ended tragically in a car accident that claimed the life of her husband, leaving her heartbroken and alone with no children. The emotional scars of her life were deep, often masked by her radiant smile on screen. Elizabeth found solace in quiet hobbies, but the loneliness never quite faded. Despite her later years, she stayed active in community theater, trying to recapture the joy of her youth. At the age of 88, Elizabeth passed away on May 27, 2024, due to natural causes, leaving behind a legacy of kindness and resilience, though her life was undeniably bittersweet, shaped by unrealized potential and love lost too soon. Barbara Stewart, born on January 3, 1930, portrayed Bunny, the lively and witty character in Gomer Pyle, USMC. She joined the show in 1964 at the age of 34, bringing her vivacious energy and comedic timing to the role. However, her personal life was far from the cheerful persona she portrayed on screen. Despite her popularity, Barbara struggled to find consistent work after the show ended, with her career mainly consisting of guest spots on television. She married twice, but both relationships ended in heartbreak. Her first marriage, to a man named Frank, ended in divorce after only a few years, and her second, to actor Ted Knight, was marred by constant separation and mutual estrangement. Barbara had no children, a fact that haunted her as she faced her advancing years in solitude. She faced health issues, including depression, which exacerbated her isolation. Two personal tragedies punctuated her life: the loss of her second husband and the death of a close friend in a tragic accident. Barbara's later years were spent quietly, with no one truly understanding the depth of her inner turmoil. She died on May 15, 2011, at the age of 81, from natural causes. Her passing marked the end of a life filled with unspoken sorrow and the quiet fading of a talent that had once brought so much joy. Forest Compton, born on September 15, 1925, portrayed the stern and disciplined Colonel Edward Grey in Gomer Pyle, USMC. At 39, Compton brought authority and depth to the role, making Colonel Grey a fixture of the show's military structure. Compton's real life, however, was marked by profound loss and regret. His acting career after the show failed to reach the same level of recognition, and while he took on many roles in television and theater, they were largely unremarkable. His personal life was full of turbulence. Compton's first marriage ended in a bitter divorce, leaving him with the heartbreak of two children who he struggled to stay connected with. His second marriage fared no better, and he ultimately found himself distant from his family. In the later years of his life, Forrest was beset by the harsh realities of aging, a sense of failure haunting him. The stardom that once seemed within his grasp now felt like a distant memory. In his final years, Forrest was a recluse, battling illness and regret. He died on April 4, 2020, at the age of 94, from complications related to COVID-19. His passing, under the shadow of a global pandemic, felt like the final chapter of a life filled with unresolved pain and a sense of having been forgotten. Jim Nabors, born on June 12, 1930, brought to life the endearing and innocent character of Private Gomer Pyle in Gomer Pyle, USMC in 1964, when he was 34 years old. Gomer, a lovable, bumbling yet well-meaning Marine, quickly became a fan favorite. Jim Nabors' real life, however, was a tale of contradictions. Behind his cheerful, innocent persona, Nabors harbored his own struggles. Despite his immense popularity, he never quite found the success he hoped for beyond his role in Gomer Pyle. His attempts to launch a successful career in music never fully materialized, though he did release several albums. He kept his personal life private, but it was known that he faced deep loneliness for much of his life. In 1971, Nabors married Stan Cadwallader, a man he had known for years, in a quiet ceremony, his first and only marriage. They spent many years together in relative peace, but Nabors' personal joy was often overshadowed by his struggle with severe health issues and the profound toll fame had on him. Despite these battles, Jim Nabors was always remembered for his humor and kindness. He died on November 30, 2017, at the age of 87, due to natural causes. His death marked the end of a gentle soul who, though loved by many, seemed to carry a weight of sorrow that no amount of laughter could ever erase. Ted Bessel, born on March 20, 1935, played Frankie, the charming and humorous character in Gomer Pyle, USMC. At 30 years old, Bessel's portrayal of Frankie brought a sense of fun and lightheartedness to the series when he joined in 1965. However, Ted's life was filled with a series of personal and professional setbacks that clouded his years after the show ended. While he had early success in acting, Ted never managed to achieve the lasting fame that his talents warranted. His career began to plateau, and his efforts to transition into directing and producing were met with little success. He married twice, both unions filled with turbulence. His first marriage ended in an acrimonious divorce after only a few years. His second, to actress and writer Linda, also faltered due to mutual infidelity and unresolved conflicts. Ted, who had no children, found himself facing the loneliness of middle age without the family he longed for. His most heart-wrenching tragedy came when, in the prime of his life, he was diagnosed with a serious illness that drained him both physically and emotionally. Ted passed away on October 6, 1996, at the age of 61, from an aortic aneurysm. His death was sudden and left many wondering what could have been if only life had been kinder to him. William Christopher, born on October 20, 1932, played the kind-hearted, often comical Lester Hummel in Gomer Pyle, USMC. Christopher was 33 when he joined the series in 1965, bringing an innate warmth and charm to the role of Hummel, a character who often served as a comic foil to the show's more serious military figures. However, Christopher's own life was filled with emotional and professional struggles. After the show ended, he faced difficulty finding substantial roles, and his career slowly faded into obscurity. Though his on-screen persona was gentle and loving, Christopher's private life was fraught with disappointments. He had been married to his wife, Barbara, for decades, but their relationship grew strained due to his professional failures and his long hours spent working in television. They had 2 children, but their family life was marred by financial instability and the pressures of his fading career. In addition to these challenges, Christopher was deeply affected by the untimely death of a close friend in a car accident, an event that shook him to his core. Despite these challenges, he remained a quiet and resilient figure in the world of television. He passed away on December 31, 2016, at the age of 84, after battling lung cancer. Frank Sutton, born on October 23, 1923, played the no-nonsense, tough-as-nails Sergeant Vince Carter in Gomer Pyle, USMC. At 40 years old, Sutton embodied a strict, authoritative figure who, despite his hard exterior, had moments of unexpected tenderness. Yet, Frank's own life seemed to follow a much more tragic arc. Although his portrayal of Sergeant Carter earned him widespread acclaim, Sutton struggled with personal demons. He never quite managed to reach the same heights of fame that his co-star Jim Nabors did, and his career after the show was marked by small roles that failed to live up to expectations. His personal life was equally troubled. Sutton had been married twice, both marriages ending in turmoil. His first wife, a woman named Linda, left him after a brief and tumultuous marriage. His second marriage to another woman ended in a bitter divorce. Frank had no children, and his attempts at rebuilding his life seemed to falter with each passing year. At the age of 50, just after a life of hard work and disappointment, Frank Sutton tragically passed away from a heart attack on June 28, 1974. His death left behind an unanswered question: could he have found happiness outside the role that had defined him so strongly? Roger Till, born on January 5, 1909, portrayed the maitre d' in Gomer Pyle, USMC, a character known for his elegance, charm, and commanding presence. His role as the sophisticated authority figure in the series was a perfect fit for the 56-year-old actor when he joined the show in 1965. But beneath the polished exterior of his on-screen persona, Till's life was anything but glamorous. His early career had been a struggle, often relegated to minor roles that barely paid the bills. He married once, but his marriage ended in a quiet, painful divorce after several years of growing emotional distance. They had no children, and Till often lamented the lack of family connections in his life. The loss of his marriage took a toll on him, leaving him to face his later years with a sense of abandonment. He found solace in his work, though it was not enough to fill the void in his heart. As his health declined in his old age, Till became reclusive, only occasionally stepping out for brief appearances. He passed away on June 28, 2002, at the age of 93, from natural causes, leaving behind a legacy of quiet dignity in his roles, but a life shadowed by personal regret and unfulfilled longing. Eddie Carroll, born on September 5, 1933, had a career full of promise, but his life was marked by the shadow of illness and personal struggles. He joined Gomer Pyle, USMC in 1966 at the age of 33, taking on the role of Sergeant Lubbock. The character was a tough, no-nonsense figure who often played the foil to Gomer's innocent antics. Despite his tough exterior on screen, Carroll's life behind the scenes was anything but smooth. Early in his career, he struggled with typecasting and found it difficult to land significant roles after the series ended in 1969. His marriage to actress Carroll, which began with great hope, faltered due to the pressures of his fading career and his own mental health issues. They had no children, and their relationship eventually fell apart, leaving Eddie to grapple with loneliness. His life took a devastating turn when he was diagnosed with a brain tumor, a cruel irony for a man who had spent much of his career portraying tough, invincible characters. His passing on April 6, 2010, at the age of 76, marked the end of a turbulent life, filled with unrealized potential and the quiet desperation of someone who could never quite find peace. Larry Hovis, born on February 20, 1936, played the role of Larry in Gomer Pyle, USMC, where his character brought humor and lightheartedness to the series. Joining the show at 28 in 1964, Larry's quick wit and easygoing demeanor made him a favorite among the cast and viewers alike. Yet, in his own life, the comedian's fortune was often fleeting. After the show's cancellation, Larry struggled to find consistent work in Hollywood. His attempts to branch into music and writing were met with little success, leaving him with a deep sense of frustration. His personal life mirrored his professional failures. He had been married twice, both unions ending in acrimonious divorces, with no children to continue his legacy. His inability to find lasting love, coupled with professional setbacks, led to bouts of depression that plagued him for years. His second marriage, to a fellow actress, ended in a bitter divorce after a public feud, leaving him emotionally shattered. In his later years, Larry withdrew from public life, often retreating into isolation. On September 9, 2003, at the age of 67, Larry passed away from esophageal cancer. His death, while a tragic end, marked the conclusion of a life filled with both humor and heartache, his name forever linked to the character he once played but never truly found peace in his own life. Tom Hatton, born on November 14, 1926, was cast as Captain Murdoch in Gomer Pyle, USMC, bringing to life the stern yet comical commanding officer. Joining the series at the age of 37 in 1964, Tom's portrayal of Captain Murdoch's no-nonsense attitude became a key part of the show's dynamic. However, Tom's life off-screen was far from the picture of stability. A marriage that seemed perfect at first unraveled slowly over time, marked by his wife's ongoing battles with mental health issues. Despite his success on television, Tom was haunted by personal turmoil. He and his wife eventually separated, though they had 2 children, neither of whom remained in close contact after their parents' divorce. Tom's professional life remained steady, but it never reached the heights he had hoped for. He struggled with feelings of inadequacy and loneliness, retreating from the public eye as he aged. A lifelong smoker, his health began to deteriorate in his later years, leaving him increasingly frail. On March 16, 2019, at the age of 92, Tom passed away due to natural causes. His passing was mourned quietly, as his life, while long, had been a mix of success and unseen sorrows, marked by a marriage that dissolved into the shadows of his otherwise disciplined career. Olin Soule, born on February 28, 1909, was already an established actor when he joined Gomer Pyle, USMC in 1966 at the age of 57, portraying the wise and kind-hearted adjuster. His character brought a sense of calm and sagacity to the often chaotic world around Gomer. In real life, however, Olin's journey was less serene. Despite his talent, Soule struggled with finding substantial roles after the series, and his career began to dwindle as he aged. His personal life, too, was a series of quiet misfortunes. Soule was married twice, but both unions were fraught with difficulties. His first marriage ended in divorce, and his second was marked by prolonged separation. He had no children, and the loneliness of his later years weighed heavily on him. As his career faded, Soule was diagnosed with lung cancer, a disease that would ultimately take his life on February 1, 1994, at the age of 84. His death was a quiet affair, with few acknowledging the loss of an actor who had once been a fixture on American television. His passing marked the end of a man who had given much to the craft but had seen too little in return. Ken Lynch, born on July 15, 1910, played the no-nonsense FBI man in Gomer Pyle, USMC in 1965 when he was 55 years old. His character was a sharp, authoritative presence who brought a certain gravity to the often comedic world of the show. Yet, behind the tough exterior, Ken's life was riddled with tragedy. His early career in Hollywood was full of unrealized potential, and after several unremarkable roles, he was often relegated to playing similar, typecast characters. His personal life was equally troubled. Ken had been married twice. His first wife left him after years of neglect, citing his obsessive work habits and emotional distance. His second marriage, to a fellow actress, crumbled under the pressure of his growing health issues and a lingering sense of failure. He had 2 children, but they grew distant as his health worsened, and they were never able to repair the fractured bond. Amidst his professional struggles and the painful memories of his failed marriages, Ken suffered the sudden loss of his beloved sister, a devastating blow that sent him into deep depression. Despite these personal trials, Ken continued working well into his later years. On February 13, 1990, at 79, Ken passed away from a heart attack, his death marking the quiet end of a life filled with battles, both on and off the screen. Herby Fay, born on February 2, 1899, took on the role of Harry in Gomer Pyle, USMC at the age of 67 in 1966. As Harry, Fay's character was lighthearted and often served as comic relief, his presence adding warmth to the show. However, Fay's life was a far cry from the jovial spirit he portrayed on screen. Despite a long career in entertainment, Fay faced numerous disappointments in his personal life. He had married early, but the union fell apart after a series of infidelities and misunderstandings. His second marriage to a woman he deeply loved was marred by the loss of their child to a rare illness, a tragedy that haunted Fay for the rest of his life. Though he carried on with his career, playing supporting roles, the pain of losing his child lingered. In his later years, he faced loneliness, with his second wife passing away, leaving him without family to lean on. Fay's health began to decline in his 70s, though he continued to act, accepting smaller roles to stay active. On June 28, 1980, at 81, Herby Fay passed away due to natural causes. His death was a quiet, sorrowful end to a life filled with personal loss and unrealized dreams, far removed from the laughter he once brought to others. Maudie Prickett, born on October 25, 1914, was 51 when she joined the cast of Gomer Pyle, USMC, playing the humorous and engaging bank teller. She brought a warmth and charm to the role, which contrasted sharply with the often absurdity of the situations in the show. Off-screen, however, Maudie's life was far from simple. Her career, though successful, had its peaks and valleys, and she often found herself playing secondary roles in an industry that prized youth. Her marriage to actor and director Gerald Prickett was rocky, and they eventually separated, with Maudie never remarrying. Despite being surrounded by colleagues in a bustling Hollywood, Maudie often spoke of feeling isolated, with few close friends in the industry. She had no children, which added to the emptiness she sometimes felt. In 1976, Maudie's health began to deteriorate rapidly, and she was diagnosed with uremic poisoning, a devastating condition that slowly shut down her kidneys. She passed away on April 14, 1976, at the age of 61, leaving behind a career that, while notable, was marked by an underlying sense of melancholy. Her death was not widely mourned in the public eye, but for those who remembered her, it was a quiet departure from a woman who had spent her life in the shadows of others' glory. John Stevenson, born on August 9, 1923, stepped into the world of Gomer Pyle, USMC, in 1964, playing the role of Major Stone, a strict and no-nonsense officer. He was 41 years old at the time, already a seasoned actor with decades of experience on stage and screen. Despite his strong presence as Major Stone, Stevenson's career was one of missed opportunities, often relegated to supporting roles or voices in cartoons. His attempts to secure leading parts failed to materialize, and his talents, while recognized, were never fully appreciated by Hollywood. In his personal life, Stevenson's story was one of quiet sorrow. He married once but endured a rocky relationship, with the marriage ending in divorce after several years. He had 2 children, a son and a daughter, but the distance between him and his family grew over time, with the pressures of his career and personal struggles casting a long shadow. His health deteriorated in later years, and he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, a cruel irony for a man who had spent his life playing roles that required mental acuity. He passed away on May 15, 2015, at the age of 91, his life quietly slipping away in the haze of dementia, a silent end to a man who had lived a life full of unspoken grief. Kathleen Freeman, born February 17, 1923, was a beloved actress known for her portrayal of Alice Whipple in Gomer Pyle, USMC, in 1968, when she was 45 years old. Alice Whipple was a lively, humorous character, and Freeman's sharp wit and comedic timing made her a standout. But behind her bright exterior, Freeman's life was filled with heartbreak and disappointment. Though she had a prolific career on the stage and screen, Freeman often found herself typecast in comedic roles, her versatility going unrecognized. She had a complicated love life. Freeman was married 3 times, each relationship fraught with turmoil. Her first marriage ended in divorce, and her second was a tragic tale of betrayal, which left her emotionally scarred. She had 1 child, a son, but her relationship with him became strained over the years as she struggled to balance the demands of her career and personal life. Freeman's health began to decline in the late 1990s, and she was diagnosed with lung cancer. She battled the disease bravely, but it ultimately took her life on August 23, 2001, at the age of 78. Her death marked the end of a career that had brought laughter to millions, yet for Freeman, the laughter was often a mask for a life filled with sorrow. Peter Hansen, born on December 5, 1921, played Lieutenant Colonel Van Pelt in Gomer Pyle, USMC at the age of 42, starting in 1964. As the stern, commanding officer, Peter's character exuded authority and discipline, which contrasted with the more light-hearted elements of the show. Off-screen, Peter's life, though filled with success in his career, was often burdened by heartache. He had been married twice. His first wife left him after a tumultuous marriage that was marred by infidelity and constant fighting. His second marriage was more stable, but Peter struggled with balancing his professional commitments with the emotional needs of his family. He had 3 children, but the emotional distance between him and his eldest son grew over the years, creating a painful rift that never healed. His life took a tragic turn when, in his later years, he lost his second wife to a sudden illness. The grief of her passing led Peter into a deep depression, and he became increasingly isolated. Despite this, he continued acting, though his career never quite reached the heights it once had. Peter Hansen passed away on April 9, 2017, at the age of 95, due to natural causes. His death marked the end of a long, sometimes painful journey, where the achievements of his career could never fully make up for the losses he endured in his personal life. Paul Brier, born on February 21, 1910, portrayed the bartender in Gomer Pyle, USMC, a character who was warm-hearted, witty, and always quick with a joke. Joining the show in 1966 at the age of 56, Brier's portrayal of the cheerful yet often sarcastic bartender added a touch of humor to the otherwise serious setting. However, his personal life was far from the laughter he brought to the screen. Brier struggled in his early career, often relegated to supporting roles and rarely achieving the fame that many of his peers enjoyed. He married late in life, but his union was turbulent, marked by a series of separations. Though he had one child, the relationship was fraught with emotional distance. In his later years, Brier suffered from a profound sense of loss, not only in his personal life but also in his career. By the time of his death in 1985, Brier had largely faded into obscurity, and it seemed as though his struggles had overshadowed his small moments of success. He passed away on August 30, 1985, at the age of 75, from natural causes, leaving behind a life filled with unfulfilled dreams and unspoken regrets. Arthur Battanides, born on April 9, 1923, was cast as Bronson, a tough, no-nonsense character in Gomer Pyle, USMC. Bronson's straightforward and often gruff demeanor made him a memorable figure in the show, which he joined in 1965 at the age of 42. Outside of his role as Bronson, Battanides struggled to find stability in his career. He had aspirations of becoming a leading man, but his rugged looks and deep voice often led him to play tough guys and minor roles, leaving him feeling typecast. His personal life reflected a similar pattern of disappointment. Battanides married twice, but both unions ended in bitter divorces, and he had no children. He often spoke of a deep loneliness that he couldn't escape, both professionally and personally. His financial troubles worsened as his career slowed, and he spent his later years battling depression. Despite his challenges, he continued to work, taking on smaller parts in television and film. Battanides passed away on January 10, 2000, at the age of 76, from natural causes. His death marked the end of a career filled with unrealized potential, a man who never quite achieved the success he had once hoped for. Larry Storch, born January 8, 1923, brought to life the exuberant and humorous character of Manuel Cortez in Gomer Pyle, USMC, in 1967, when he was 44 years old. Cortez was a charismatic and fun-loving character, and Storch's performance was filled with energy and charm. Despite his success on the show, Storch's career was a turbulent one. He struggled to find roles that matched his comedic genius and often found himself relegated to sidekicks or background characters. His personal life was marked by its own set of challenges, particularly his failed marriage to his first wife, who left him after a few years, citing the pressures of his erratic career. He later remarried, but the relationship also ended in divorce. Storch's strained relationships with his 2 children, a son and a daughter, only added to his sense of loneliness, and he often spoke of the emotional toll his career took on his family life. In his later years, Storch became reclusive, suffering from health issues that made public appearances difficult. Still, he remained a beloved figure in the entertainment world. He passed away on July 8, 2022, at the age of 99, succumbing to natural causes, a quiet end for a man whose life had been filled with both laughter and deep, personal struggles. Joe E. Tata, born on September 13, 1936, joined Gomer Pyle, USMC in 1964 at the age of 28, portraying Joey, a likable and often humorous character who added lightheartedness to the series. While Tata's role in the show was beloved, his personal life was far from serene. Despite early success, his career struggled to find consistency beyond the sitcom, leading to financial difficulties. His relationships mirrored his professional struggles. He married once, but the marriage ended in divorce, leaving him emotionally bruised. Tata's attempts to find happiness were hampered by the relentless grip of loneliness, and his later years were overshadowed by health issues. The most harrowing chapter of his life came when he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, a condition that slowly robbed him of his memories and his sense of self. This cruel fate seemed almost poetic, given that Joey was a character who brought joy to others but couldn't keep it for himself. Tata passed away on August 24, 2022, at the age of 85, succumbing to complications from Alzheimer's, leaving behind a legacy of a man whose greatest tragedy was not in his death, but in the slow fading of his once vibrant life. Toll Avery was a man whose life seemed always to be in the shadow of disappointment and misfortune. Born on August 28, 1915, he joined the cast of Gomer Pyle, USMC in 1965 at the age of 50, portraying J. Randolph Povey, a stern and authoritative character who clashed with Gomer's innocence. Though he was often respected for his tough exterior, Avery's personal life was a contrast of isolation and heartache. Despite his distinguished career on stage and screen, his roles were often limited to background characters or brief appearances, which left him yearning for more recognition and success. His first marriage, to actress Frances H. Bradshaw, ended in divorce after a decade, and their son, who was his pride and joy, fell into troubled times in his teenage years. His relationship with his son fractured as years went by, and the unresolved tension seemed to haunt him. In the final years of his life, he turned to alcohol to cope with his diminishing career and strained family bonds. It was a grim irony that his untimely death on August 27, 1973, at the age of 57, came just one day before his birthday, when a heart attack claimed him. His passing left an unsung legacy, and his life, full of unspoken sorrows, faded quietly into the past. Channon Hail, born on September 3, 1928, had a promising career ahead when she joined the cast of Gomer Pyle, USMC in 1965 at the age of 37, playing the vivacious and engaging Gloria. Her character brought warmth and humor to the series, but behind the scenes, Hale's life was fraught with personal tragedy. She had married twice, but neither union lasted. Her first husband, a fellow actor, had a turbulent career that mirrored her own struggles in the industry. Despite her charming and lively on-screen persona, Hale struggled to find lasting happiness. Her second marriage ended bitterly, leaving her with 2 children, both of whom went on to have strained relationships with her, never fully understanding the pressures of her life in the spotlight. Hale's son, a promising musician, fell into addiction, and her daughter became estranged from her, a situation that left Hale reeling for years. The loneliness was compounded by Hale's battle with depression, which plagued her in the later stages of her life. Still, she carried on, finding solace in art and community work. She survived until January 30, 2020, passing away at the age of 91, from natural causes, but her later years were marked by a quiet resignation to the tragedies that had shaped her. Jesse White, born on January 3, 1917, brought a remarkable depth to his portrayal of Harry Krasna in Gomer Pyle, USMC, a character full of humor and warmth. At the age of 50, White joined the series in 1967, bringing with him a career that had seen its highs and lows. Known for his comedic timing, he had once been a rising star in Hollywood, but the 1950s and 1960s had not been kind to him professionally. White's personal life mirrored the chaos of his professional career. He had been married 3 times, and each marriage ended in disappointment. His first wife, a fellow actress, had left him for a more successful actor, and his second marriage ended due to infidelity on both sides. By the time he married for the 3rd time, his family life was already in disarray, with his children from previous marriages showing little interest in reconciliation. The pressure of failing marriages and a career that never quite reached the peak he had hoped for weighed heavily on him. As the years passed, White's health declined, and his reputation suffered from the fallout of his personal life. He passed away from a heart attack on January 9, 1997, at the age of 80. His death was mourned by few, and his life, despite its comedic contributions to the screen, was largely remembered for its sorrowful tale of unfulfilled potential. Byron Morrow, born on September 8, 1911, was 54 when he joined Gomer Pyle, USMC in 1965, portraying the congressman, a figure of stern authority. Morrow's character demanded respect and was unyielding in his political stance, much like the actor's own real-life battles. While his role in the series brought him some recognition, his career trajectory had its ups and downs. His professional path was marred by frequent typecasting, and he struggled to secure roles beyond the authoritative figures he was so often asked to play. Off-screen, Morrow faced his own battles, particularly in his personal life. He had been married multiple times, though his marriages seemed to crumble under the weight of his relentless work ethic and his inability to connect emotionally. Morrow had children, but the distance between them grew as the years wore on, with strained relationships becoming more evident in his later years. His final years were filled with a profound sense of regret, and it was in these years that he faced his biggest personal tragedy, the realization that his career and family life had slipped away, leaving him with little to hold on to. Morrow passed away on May 11, 2006, at the age of 94, due to natural causes. Dabbs Greer, born on April 2, 1917, played Harper Caldwell in Gomer Pyle, USMC, a character known for his wisdom and warmth. When Greer joined the show in 1965 at the age of 48, he brought a depth to the character that made him stand out as one of the show's more grounded figures. However, Greer's personal life was far from the calm demeanor he portrayed on screen. Though his career spanned decades, he too faced the bitter reality of being cast in roles that often felt limiting. His career ebbed and flowed, and despite his natural talent, Greer never fully received the acclaim he deserved. His marriages, too, reflected a pattern of brief happiness followed by inevitable dissolution. He was married more than once, but the bonds never seemed to last. His relationships with his children were fraught with tension, and he often struggled to balance his demanding career with family life. The greatest tragedy of Greer's life came when his health began to deteriorate. Renal failure struck him in his later years, leading to a slow decline. The disease left him weakened and frail, but it did not extinguish the quiet dignity he carried throughout his life. Greer passed away on April 28, 2007, at the age of 90, after a long battle with kidney disease. What are your thoughts on the loss of the beloved actors from Gomer Pyle, USMC? Which of them do you miss the most? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to stay updated with our newest videos.